What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on today, brother?
Nothing much, man. We got some pretty. It's a huge week. Like we keep saying, we're going to get more and more into the minute details of some of these sports that we're talking about, and then it's like, okay, we got to talk big picture about this because you wake up in my case, I was in a meeting, my phone didn't stop buzzing. I take my phone out of my pocket, and it's Aaron Rodgers is back, and Russell Wilson's going to the Broncos. I was like, what?
Hey, we were joking about it before we got on. Everybody's getting plugged into March, like, okay, college basketball's time to shine. Okay, NFL's getting a little serious. Then the NFL comes in and does what they do best. Let's just rip away the headlines and point the attention right at us. Like, they're the most attention whore type of organization ever. They can't help themselves.
Well, it's funny too because we had the franchise tag day, which is a big thing, and then it was the speculation, and then we had the trades, and we have cuts, and then the league year starts next week. Like none of this was like the league year hasn't even taken off yet, and we have this news. Free agency hasn't even started, so they know what they're doing and they're good at it.
They definitely do. And that's why we say the NFL never sleeps. They've created this calendar where it always sucks you in because you're always thinking about football season. Like, it's the off season. Yeah, some of these storylines are bigger than during the season. Like you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers back. Okay, it seems like he's kind of put to bed any of the issues he had with the Green Bay Packers. Russell Wilson, I mean, he finally is out of Seattle. Seems like that was a thing for 2 years. Not only that, he goes to the Broncos, creates this division that maybe the best quarterback division in the history of the sport. You got other movement, and then, like you said, you got cuts, franchise tags, re-signing, all before the new league starts. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about all of it, and back burner, just so everyone knows that keep in the back of your head there that Brad Sixers got blown the hell out tonight. So if he comes across a little angry or bitter in this podcast, just know that it was because of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons in the pregame.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Nets Sixers game one, and so we'll get to that. I don't want to say unfortunately because we love talking football. I know it's a huge appetite for a lot of people out there. I feel a little guilty though, Tyson, that we're going to chat about the NFL because it's March and these conference tournaments have been unbelievable, and we're not going to spend a single second on it on this podcast.
No, I know. Yeah, this is. I mean, shoot, it was a huge week. We're coming off a UFC card as well. Like we had a lot of stuff going on, and here we are. And this is what this is what I would rather. I'm more excited to talk about this than anything else. This was huge.
You're a huge football guy, and I'm glad you brought up UFC because if you didn't listen last week, Tyson went 5-0 in his main card predictions. Literally called, I think, 3 of the fights to a T exactly how they were going to go. 4 fights. There we go.
Yeah, because I parlayed them, so I lost. I didn't make any money, but I did have one of those. Yeah, it was 4, but
because you said Covington's going to dominate on the ground. It's going to be boring. It's going to go the distance.
I thought Bryce Mitchell was going to get a sub, and that was the one that I got wrong there. Right. But it was.
But you said, I mean, Hillbilly Holland. Man. I'm a fan now.
Yeah, he was in there talking. But we'll skip all that, man. We can't tease the NFL, and then if people don't want to wait 4 minutes.
You're right. Okay, so we alluded to it. We gave a little bit of kind of updating and cliff notes about what happened, but so let's dive into everything right now. We're going to start with the big one. Russell Wilson was traded to the Broncos. I mean, a massive blockbuster trade here. Seattle seems to be hitting the reset button on exactly what they're going to do with their franchise. So they sent Russell Wilson and a 2022 fourth-round pick in this year's draft to the Denver Broncos. Now they got a haul back. They got Drew Lock, kind of an up-and-down quarterback. They just got him back in the deal. Noah Fant, a young tight end who has loads of talent, just seems to be a little bit injury-prone. Let's see if he can resurrect his career over in Seattle. And Shelby Harris, a defensive tackle, a piece that the Broncos liked a lot and I think will be a good fit in Seattle. And, of course, Seattle got back a haul of picks, a 2022 first-round pick, 2023 first-round pick, a 2022 second-round pick, 2022 fifth-round pick, and a 2023 second-round pick. I mean, that is a king's ransom for Russell Wilson. Tyson, looking at everything, I'm not going to do who won this trade, who lost this trade. That's for all the other crap. I mean, when you analyze this from the Broncos' perspective, let's start there. Was this worth giving up what many could say mortgaging a future, or at least losing a ton of assets to get Russell Wilson in this trade?
Well, yeah. First of all, I think incredibly worth it, but I don't think they paid a king's ransom. I don't agree with that sentiment. Just because, like the 109 this year, if you're Seattle and you're in a rebuild, or even if you're Denver at this point, you're not getting Malik Willis isn't walking into Denver. By the time he's ready to roll, the team is no longer built. Because this Denver team is very talented, both sides of the ball. And they still, I think, have 5 picks inside the top 115, 3 within the top 100, I believe. But for them, I think it's clearly worth it because, like I said, you weren't going to get your quarterback at 109. You've been toying with this idea for the last couple of years. You keep getting burned. It looks like, whether or not they were in on Aaron Rodgers, with him re-signing with Green Bay, and then an hour later they had this deal done that was supposedly, in the works for weeks. It tells me that they were probably working on both these guys, if not even more, maybe making calls on a few more guys around the league. They were ready to swing big. And I think Russell Wilson is a great quarterback for Denver here because of the personnel that they possess on the offense. Everyone wants to talk about DK Metcalf being Russell Wilson's, like him and Tyler Lockett, like his perfect receivers. I think DK is the take the top off the field kind of guy, big body wide receiver that's good at winning at the point of attack. I think Courtland Sutton is better controlling the sideline and contorting his body to make those catches. Russell hasn't had a guy to be able to do those kind of things since Doug Baldwin, before Doug started getting banged up there. And then Tyler Lockett, great deep threat, and also a really good security blanket. Jerry Jeudy can play that security blanket role. Tim Patrick is a pretty good deep threat. And Albert O, I think, will be the best tight end. Weird as that is to say, that Russ has played with in the last little while. And he gets to throw that pretty deep ball his up in the mile high I just think Courtland Sutton last year with the 3rd most air targets in the league from Teddy B, with Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball. Now you got Russell Wilson slinging that thing around. Javonte Williams in the backfield. I think it's very likely they bring back Melvin Gordon. This offense is, seems stacked right now. We can't say for sure that it's going to be good because I'm not entirely sure on the kind of offense they plan on running at this point, but they'll be able to do whatever they want.
And new coach, Nathaniel Hackett, coming over from the Green Bay Packers, he said he's going to take some of the stuff, if not all the stuff, from Green Bay, which is the Shanahan tree, LaFleur, all that type of offense. We'll see how similar it is to what they actually ran, what type of freedom that Wilson has. I mean, ideally, you probably give him the keys to that, and you run basically what LaFleur and Rodgers are running in Green Bay, where they can audible at the line, kind of communicating with each other what they're seeing on the field. But I agree with you, man. I mean, the Broncos needed to take a swing on this thing. I mean, they have failed miserably since Peyton Manning getting a quarterback that's actually their guy. They tried free agency. They tried the draft. None of it worked. And when you look at the King's ransom, is there really a King's ransom for a quarterback that's going to work out like Russell Wilson? I mean, let's say Russell Wilson is everything they want. They can get to a Super Bowl. They have a chance to win it. Or let's say they even win a division. That is worth like 17 first-round picks. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, to win a division in the AFC West with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Derek Carr, who had a good year last year, actually finished second in that division. You weren't not going to be able to accomplish that with Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock. You had to take a swing, whether it was Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. People say, "Oh, I think they panicked because Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers re-signed, so they overpaid for Russell Wilson." Then the reports come out, no, they've been trying to do this deal actually weeks before they even started thinking about Aaron Rodgers. So I'm agreeing with you here, Tyson. The Broncos needed to make this aggressive move, and that's what it is. Make no mistake, this is aggressive from the Denver Broncos. They saw where they were in this division. Patrick Mahomes, is really good with Andy Reid. That team's going to be a juggernaut for a while, or until that contract starts catching up to them down the road. The Chargers are coming with Justin Herbert. I mean, it's a matter of time with him. And then Derek Carr. Well, we saw what they did last year, and that's with John Gruden and Rich Bisaccia. Now you're bringing in Josh McDaniels. We need to be aggressive. Let's go get somebody, and let's go get Russell Wilson, who now is probably the second best quarterback in that division.
Ooh, that's a spicy one. I haven't even thought about. I think I got him. I think I got him third by
Third
a little
behind
bit.
Herbert. See, that's the thing. Why are we doing this to Russell Wilson, man?
Because
why are we doing this to him? He's so good.
So is Herbert, man.
Herbert had 2 years, man. He hasn't made the playoffs. We talk about Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl winning champion.
It's been 2 years since Russell Wilson had a good season. So
is that his fault, or is that the Carol Soros, who's a fossil?
Speaking of, and we'll get into that. That's the thumb thing. But I do want to talk about that in Seattle. This is weird. To sign Pete Carroll to a contract extension at 70 years old and then immediately enter a rebuild. This is really weird. Like, to me, this doesn't make any sense, because let's say they take Malik Willis at 109, like a lot of people are mocking. I don't think that would be all that smart, but let's say that's the direction they go. Okay. In 3 years or whatever, when he's halfway through his contract and Pete Carroll is 73, 74 years old and decide, I don't want to do this anymore, you're somebody else is supposed to come in, take over a guy that you can't get rid of for a couple of years, basically signing a death warrant, because there's no chance. That doesn't work in the NFL. It just doesn't. There's a reason that it's almost always new head coach, new quarterback, or it's a guy like Trevor Lawrence that you're walking into a Derek Carr situation, like with Josh McDaniels. This rebuild is not going to work. Like, there's just no way this works. I know they're supposed to have $100 million in cap space in 2023, but this is a tear down the whole building kind of deal that they have going on, cutting Bobby Wagner, looking to move Tyler Lockett. Reports they might even sell DK to see what they can get out of him. But when you're talking about an organization that has taken Rashad Penny and LJ Collier and Bruce Irvin's like the best first-round pick they've made in the last decade. They spent 2 of them trading for Jamal Adams, and then they got 2 back for Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson's worth Jamal Adams plus Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and like a second. That doesn't add. That makes no sense, right? That, I know it's a sunken cost fallacy, but these are the guys that this is. When you're playing with the values of a franchise like this, these are the guys you're putting the rebuild in the hands of.
Right.
You give all this power to these guys that they've shown you over and over again that they're not very good at the drafting side of it at the very least. And then what do? You say, oh, we don't need a quarterback. We'll go get you more ammo. This to me means Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks don't view Russell Wilson as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And that's just as simple as it gets.
Oh, that's a big statement. I mean, especially since he's won with John Schneider and Pete Carroll, pretty much saved Pete Carroll's job. I mean, you mentioned it. If it wasn't for Pete Carroll, or it wasn't for Russell Wilson, the Seattle Seahawks ship would have sunk a long time ago after Legion of Boom. That's a big statement. I'll let that marinate for a little bit in my head, because I'm curious I might want to dig on that in a little once we get more closer to football season. But because I've never heard you think about that before. So I think when you look at the Seahawks perspective, it is interesting where this franchise is going. I mean, so let's just take the Carroll contract extension out of it in my mind here, just what they're getting back and where they're looking to do. It is a total rebuild when you look at the fact they're getting Wilson and Bobby Wagner out of the building. They're bringing in all these draft picks. What are they going to do with them? Are they going to try to flip them for Deshaun Watson? Because that's the hot rumor. So let's say you do. Besides Metcalf and Lockett, what do you really have around Deshaun Watson? I mean, the defense has been suspect for a few years. Besides that, Lockett and DK on offense, I mean, the O-line's always been bad.
Oh, that's garbage.
Rashad Penny's going to get hurt, and then who do you have? You're going to do another rotation. So I'm curious to see where they go with these new assets they have. Is it something maybe they just try to restock the cabinet? Maybe they just do it straightforward. Okay, we know we're going to be bad. Let's cycle out Let's just restock our shelves. And then maybe in a few years down the line, we can get good again. Or do they take a different approach? Let's just flip these things. Let's flip our assets and let's try to get players now and maybe supplement what we currently have and adding into holes. And maybe, we go get a quarterback in free agency, maybe can compete in the division. That's what I'm curious about to see how they attack this offseason.
I mean, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but there's a chance they go out, they sign another tight end, they run a 3 tight end set, and Pete Carroll hands the ball off 60 times a game to Rashad Penny, who they bring back. And I'm a lot more inclined to believe that Mr. Established the Run himself, Pete Carroll, isn't really liking the fact that Rashad Penny blew up at the end of that season. And I mean, first of all, if they go into the regular season with Drew Lock as a starter, there's your signal. We know right away this team's going to be bad, and they know they're going to be bad. But I think they're going to run the hell out of the football and win 4 or 5 games. And I mean, would you rather be them with no quarterback if you're trying to rebuild, or go get a Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz type of guy and just be fine? Like, it makes no sense.
It really doesn't. I mean, it's perplexing. The thing about the Seahawks is we've viewed them as such a good organization for a while, mainly because they just kept winning, and mainly because it was Russell Wilson doing the winning. But now you get rid of Russ, yeah. It's how's that organization really going to look? We're going to see. We're going to find out.
Yeah, it's good timing because the NFC West just keeps going up, and they said, unlike the Broncos saying we want in this thing, we're not going to sit by for a decade while you two duke it out. The Seahawks were like, we're good. Like, you guys can have this for a couple of years. We'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Another big storyline coming out of the NFC, Tyson. Aaron Rodgers re-signs with the Green Bay Packers. All that drama, all the Aaron Rodgers loves attention. That's what we found out of this whole thing. Holy smokes, does that guy like the spotlight? But apparently, he put aside his differences. I think he had about 200 million reasons why.
He says no.
Apparently, it's not a 4-year, $200 million deal. I don't know. It's not coming out what it actually is. So maybe just because he knew his name was just not in the spotlight anymore because of the Wilson trade. So, that's actually not what the deal is. Dude, how about you shut the hell up?
Yeah.
Stop being in the spotlight and maybe go win some playoff games, for God's sake. I mean, holy smokes. But tangent aside, Aaron Rodgers is back with the Green Bay Packers. What that does in the betting markets here, the Packers are the plus 350 favorites to win the NFC ahead of the Super Bowl winning LA Rams, who are at plus 430. This is all according to FanDuel. And now this is what took me by surprise here. The Green Bay Packers are the second shortest favorites to win here, only behind the Buffalo Bills at plus 750. The Green Bay Packers are. They're ahead of the Chiefs, who are at plus 850, and the Rams at plus 1100. The only better odds are the Bills at plus 700 to win the Super Bowl this year. That shocked me. I think there's a lot of question marks around this franchise, around this roster. To be the second favorites to win the Super Bowl just because Aaron Rodgers re-signs his contract, that's shocking to me from a gambling perspective. And I just want to throw that in there because it kind of ties into how the market expects this team to be. What do you think about that? And just thoughts in general hearing that, Tyson?
I think at this point in the season, I think that's perfectly fair to have them at number 2 right now, just because, first of all, Kansas City left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. That second half is the last thing that we saw the Chiefs put on the field. And I think, frankly, that's affecting the market a little bit there. I think, Kansas City's going to go out if they sign a wide receiver in free agency or they draft one in the first round. That'll push them immediately right back into the conscious, and they might overtake that number 2. But the NFC I think this is, at this point in time, it looks very weak. It looks about as wide open as it's been in quite a while. Packers have been there at the end the last 3 years, essentially, knocking on the door. Everyone else feels like they might be getting worse. We're not sure, but like the Packers, you're safe. You know they're going to win 12 games and they're going to go to the playoffs. And if you're putting down features tickets um, before the draft or free agency, first of all, get some help probably. You gotta, there's hotlines you can call and stuff. But I just now's the time if you're a huge Trey Lance person to maybe think about putting it on them. But if you're really trying to, I want good value, there's a chance that the Packers win 12, 13, 14 games and they go into the playoffs as the number one odds to win the Super Bowl here. So I don't hate it at all.
Okay. No, that's interesting because, I mean, when you break it down that way, I can see the thought process there and what the market's reacting to. For me, it's just what has changed about this team besides, which we'll get into. Devontae Adams is coming back and Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I think there's going to be more losses and key losses across the roster this offseason than I think there's going to be additions that are going to help this football team win. We've seen this story so many times with these Aaron Rodgers Packers. They have a great regular season, and Rodgers is so good and wins the MVP. And then they get to the postseason, then they get their brains beat in because they're finesse. It's crazy. It just happens all the time. So I guess maybe that's the sour taste in my mouth from the past 2 seasons, and I can't wrap my mind around what these prices are and how they're being valued right now. So that's an aside for me there. But Tyson, I mean, what do you think about Rodgers coming back in general? Like, betting aside, just football itself, Rodgers coming back to the Packers, if you look at that roster and that franchise, I mean, Jordan Love now, I mean, that pushes him back.
What a loss.
Whew.
We're talking one of the biggest. I said this at the time, and I texted you the other day, actually. Just imagine if they took T. Higgins.
Oh, man.
Like, if they take T. Higgins, there's an above average chance that they're playing in the Super Bowl in the Bucs Stadium 2 years ago instead of Tom Brady going down. I mean, what a miss. This is not quite franchise altering because of Aaron Rodgers and how great he is, but this was, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But that aside, I'm not shocked to see Rodgers come back. I am a little surprised that we don't actually know what the details of the contract are at this point. And to me, it still looks like, until I hear something different, then he's just on the current deal, which is up at the end of this year. And then we can reevaluate. But as of now, I don't think anything's changed. It feels to me the exact same as it did a year ago, except for this year they're heading in, we're going to hear a lot of A.J. Dillon hype coming from Green Bay and the Green Bay guys, and I think deservedly so. I think he's a monster. But like, how much better is he going to make the team than when Aaron Jones was at his peak? It just feels like the same team. If they can come out of this draft with, grabbing a guy like Chris Olave or Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson, somebody to get on the other side of the field, because one thing we know about Aaron Rodgers is he loves his alpha wide receivers. But another thing we know about Aaron Rodgers is he's pretty much only ever had the one alpha wide receiver, and it's been a rotating. Some guys, Randall Cobb have a good stretch, but it's few and far between for him. So I think getting them that second weapon is priority number one, and frankly, should be the most important and pressing thing on the mind of the Green Bay Packers.
This is a big offseason for what they do in the draft. Maybe the biggest that I can remember in a while. To your point, if let's say this contract is 4 years, $200 million, that's been reported. That's what is it? The highest contract ever, or the most expensive contract ever for any player in the history of the NFL. The cap hit's going to be monstrous. You're not going to be able to go and get these free agents in the offseason. Now, Green Bay struggled with that in the past, just due to the fact they're Green Bay and it's cold and it's a small little town. That puts the pressure to hit on multiple draft picks. And Green Bay is good at drafting. Like, that's one of the things they're exceptional at in that organization, no matter who's in charge and who's at the helm. But this just makes the hit more and more important, and the decision-making has to be there. Like you said, you decided to take Jordan Love over T. Higgins. Where are we at now if the organization decided to say, I think Aaron Rodgers still has more time in his prime? But
another important point, I think, too, to think about with that, because we only talk about the Jordan Love pick. Second round, they took A.J. Dillon. They sat him on the bench for the first couple years of his career. So you make it to the NFC title game, and then you say, let's just rebuild, or let's just try to reload. But then you pussyfoot around with the contract situation with your MVP quarterback for 2 years, and then you wonder why things are the way they are. It's not – look, man, Aaron Rodgers has acted like a total douchebag throughout this whole thing. But if I were him, I'd be a little pissed off too at the way these things have gone over the last couple of years. Would I've handled like that? Probably not. There's a reason Tom Brady's got 7 of them, because he handles these things like a gangster. Aaron Rodgers bitches and moans and hops on his like the Pat McAfee show and speaks in
Miles
tongues.
Teller.
Yeah, and it's he's a prima donna, but there is some aspects of it where I'm like, well, damn, why? It's like the Russell Westbrook thing right now. It's like, yeah, he's being a weirdo about it, but like you can kind of get where he's coming from.
Right. Oh, that's all right. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, Tyson. Once upon a time, our boy Carson Wentz. I mean, we had a lot of property on Wentz Island. I mean, we were massive property owners there, and then it didn't work out, so we had to sell our shares. Went to Philly. Or went to Indy. We got a first-round pick for the whole thing. All right, thank you, Carson. Now, 1 year in Indy, and they ship him over to the Washington Commanders. Now, he's the first quarterback in the history of the Washington Commanders.
Ooh, that's a good point. That's going to be a fun fact.
So, Commander Carson taking the helm there. Interesting trade.
Commander Carson.
Yeah. Interesting trade, I think, for both teams here. Now, the Colts are going to get back from the Commanders a 2022 third-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick that can get to a second-round pick, another one of these, Tyson. If Wentz plays 70% of the snaps, then they'll also receive a 2022 second-round pick for this year's draft. Now, the Commanders obviously get Carson Wentz back in this trade and a 2022 second-round pick. So, interesting trade here. I mean, obviously, when you compare the Wilson trade, that was – a massive haul.
Yeah, then it is a king's ransom.
Had to give up.
Then that is a king's ransom, yeah.
Yeah, this one is. Let's start with the Colts here. So you bring in Carson. You gave up, I think, a lot to get him in retrospect. And, we can always play Monday morning quarterback and blah, blah, blah. I think even in the moment, both you and I, Tyson, were like, if you think about it, this could be a first-round draft pick. If you think about it, this is kind of a lot to give up for Carson, whose tank is pretty in stock is like about as low as you can get. Year in, they don't make the playoffs. Now they decide to move on from Carson Wentz, and it seems like the rumor is they're going to go get Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know what the hell Chris Ballard's doing as general manager of the Colts, because here's a dirty secret about kind of his tenure. The media loves Chris Ballard. I think it's because Ryan Gregson was such an idiot and a douchebag and a fuck that, okay, Gregson comes in. He's really good with the media and he's awesome to talk to. And Chris Ballard is so smart and cerebral and great. And we love talking to him. So the media picks favorites when the reality is, what the hell has he done as a general manager for the Colts? What successes have they had? I think they got fleeced by the Eagles in this Carson Wentz trade. They brought in Phillip Rivers, who amounted to a playoff appearance. There's been virtually no success. I don't think they've won a division since Chris Ballard's taken over. It's been very, very meh. And I'm kind of shocked that we're treating this as a genius move by the Colts. Like, whoa, look what they got back from the Commanders. It's like, yeah, but you also gave up a first-round pick, and you're going to use that stuff you got back to go get Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, really? I hope Sam Ellinger's good, because we know Garoppolo's going to get hurt. I mean, what are we talking about here? And I'm off the Wentz thing of where I was, where I thought he was like a super high-end guy. I still think he's a starter in the NFL. You're just going to have to live with a lot of his mistakes and a lot of his bullshit. But to act like the Colts are just so smart, like, oh my God, look what they did. Oh man, Dan Snyder, what an idiot, gets fleeced again. It's like, or they're going to be stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, and you think that's an improvement? I just don't understand what the Colts are doing right now as a franchise.
I do think Jimmy might be an improvement in the locker room. I think that could
Okay.
be like a pretty big deal there for that team. But as far as like your endpoint there on Carson, it is like I love to shit on the guy too. I was I was all over the Carson Wentz train. I watched him. I was on the sideline when he came, uh, played against the Grizz. And I was looking at him here in Missoula. I was like, damn. And then he's really good, and he ends up on my favorite team. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then Jadeveon Clowney hit him in the head, and I think that nobody talks about that. And that you can trace the end of Carson Wentz to the Jadeveon Clowney hit in the playoffs. All that stuff aside, it's kind of difficult to imagine that there's 32 better quarterbacks at any given time than Carson Wentz. Almost, he's gonna get to the point, I think, where you know how we have the journeyman backup quarterback that bounce around the league.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is like that toxic relationship that every team in the NFL is going to be like, well, I can fix him. Like I'm going to be the one. Like I can, it's like what we all imagine Jameis Winston is.
Right.
It's like a bizarre Fitzmagic, or almost is kind of like what this is. I think he's going to go to Washington and probably end up getting a shot somewhere else. But he's fine. Like he's not. How much better than Taylor Heineke is Carson Wentz?
A lot better.
Yeah, and people are treating this like, is this going to be a quarterback? Like, what do we have going on here? They upgraded a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what they upgraded a quarterback, and for the Colts, it's fine. Like you got some third round picks back for a guy that you don't think is, going to lead your team to the promised land. I think that's a decent return. I don't think you can compare it to the first that the Eagles got out of him, just because, like, I had never seen Carson in their build. This is a year after the guy that we all thought could fix Carson Wentz kicked him out the door and went and apologized to management for how big of a mess up that turned out to be. So I think that's pretty damning. And that's, if I'm Washington, I'm a little scared about that. But 2/3 out of that guy, not so bad from Indianapolis' perspective. You give 2/3 to get a potential guy you could have start on your franchise for 2, 3, 4 years. Not so bad from Washington. So I think this move is like, I don't see one way that it goes really well for one. I don't think you can lose this one so much.
I like the point too. I mean, Washington clearly upgraded their quarterback room. Carson Wentz is immensely more talented than Taylor Heineke. I think the people that would say otherwise either A, don't know what they're talking about, B, haven't watched either of these two quarterbacks and actually like watched them. They've just seen the highlights or read what they wanted to read on the internet about either of them. And C, they just don't understand like what you actually need to win in the NFL. I mean, look at the division, the NFC East. You have Dak Prescott, say what you want. On his high end, he can beat any quarterback in the NFL on any given day. Jalen Hurts, who in his first year of starting led the Eagles, who everybody thought was going to be a last place team, bottom 5 team in the NFL, to the playoffs. And then you have the Giants. Daniel Jones, I think he sucks, but we'll see what Brian Daboll can do with him. I mean,
if he gets a chance.
I mean, maybe they bring in Trubisky. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But they're looking at this like, okay, we know this is the division that Carson's won in the past, that this is the division that he's familiar with. Why not take a shot on him? I mean, the draft this year for quarterbacks is really bad. And let's say he does suck, and let's say the team is bad. Okay, you can get a high draft pick for next year's draft. I mean, I think it's a win-win for the Commanders. You're gonna get him in the locker room. We'll see what Ron Rivera can do with him. And I think that's a good point you made, because we all thought, okay, he's going back to Frank Reich and they're getting reunited. Maybe that could resurrect his career. We'll see what happens now. That didn't work. Now I think people are like, wait, if it didn't work with that guy, what the hell can we do with him? I'm curious to see the relationship that he has in Washington. I wonder if it's like kind of like a third time, like, okay, it didn't work in Philly. Oh, but I'm going to Indy and Frank's my guy. I can kind of do this. It's like, dude, now it didn't work there and he wanted you out. Like, you got to clean up your act. I'm curious if that's what's going to happen, or if this is one of the things, hey, it doesn't work here, you're done in the NFL. Because if you act like the way Carson's acted, according to our reports, according to different things, that's not somebody that people want in the locker room as a backup.
And after all that, seemingly praise on Carson, I, as an Eagles fan, am very happy to see him back in the division, playing for a rival team. I mean, from another, like, if that was Russell Wilson, I would be terrified of Washington. I don't think this makes him division favorites or anything like that. It makes them better. But again, this is when we talk about Denver. This is why I don't think it was that much to give up, because it's not like every guy that you can go out and get is Matt Stafford or is Russell Wilson. A lot of it is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz. Maybe you get a Kirk Cousins. And then it's like, okay, we're one win better than we were a year ago, and we gave up 2 first-round picks or 2 third-round picks or whatever to get this done. So I think that's the nature of quarterback, and I think we're in this weird time where, I mean, this is just so much quarterback movement over the last couple of years. It's almost unreal, really, the amount of turnover at the top of the position that we've seen in the last couple of years.
Completely agree. And so, Tyson, the other big one that just happened, I mean, Khalil Mack traded by the Bears to the Chargers. Chargers, I mean, seeing those quarterbacks come into their division, they're like, hey, let's go. We got to get them. We have Bosa. We lost Melvin Ingram. We got to get another guy to complement Joey Bosa. Made a very aggressive move, traded for Khalil Mack. This was interesting. I think if you're the Bears and the Chargers, what you're able to get them for here. 2022 second round pick and a 6th rounder are going to Chicago, and Khalil Mack is going. LA's take on the entirety of Mack's remaining salary of 3 years, $63 million. But I believe that Chicago has to eat a dead cap space of what, 28 million or 23 million, something like that. So not ideal to eat that cap space. Good, I think, for them to get him off the books. So if I'm looking at this from a Bears perspective, you didn't get back really anything crazy in return, but it's not like Khalil Mack is at his highest sell price. You know what I mean? Like, he had a couple down years in Chicago. He's getting a little older. When you think of elite edge rushers, he's not the first name that pops in your mind anymore, because it used to be best at pass rusher, like, oh, Khalil Mack, or him and Khalil Mack. Now it's like, well, I think this guy is really good. Nick Bosa is awesome. Go down the list. You're like, oh yeah, Khalil Mack's pretty good. He's not viewed as he used to be. For the Bears, I think you need to get younger, and you need to get a new type of player in under Ryan Poles, new general manager, who I think is going to operate differently than what they've had in the past with Ryan Pace. So I guess you can say, and of course the internet's going to be tweaking out like this, I can't believe that the Chargers got Khalil Mack for this. But if you're the Bears, that's a lot of money to be paying for a player who doesn't really help you win now. Like, I don't think Khalil Mack on this team healthy is going to push him to the next step. Trade him, get him off the books. That creates more cap space. Get at least something in return back asset-wise in the draft, and start this little rebuild that you got going.
Yeah, I completely understand. I think Chicago is going to, right now, is projected to have like $123 million in cap space in 2023. I'm not even kidding. Like, I think it's like over half of what the projected cap is going to be. They're supposed to have free. Obviously, that'll change as contract extensions and stuff come about, but they're going to be able to get whoever they want in that 2023 free agency class. My issue is it just feels a little light. Like, I understand that his contract was really hard to offload there, but it couldn't have been Khalil Mack and a 3rd or a 4th round pick to go up and it back into the 1st round because you don't have that 1st round pick this year. You gave it up for Justin Fields. It just feels like an unnecessary. There's going to be another question, like, are they going to hit on that 2nd round pick? Because then if you miss, then you like this is going to set you back a lot more than having Khalil Mack on the team. Look, Ryan Poles, I think I saw somebody said it earlier that Ryan Pace started off his tenure by making Chicago Bears fans really happy. And by the end, they wanted to kill him. And Poles came out and pissed him off right away, which I honestly respect quite a lot. I think that's a great move to come out and be like, hey, this is just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. You guys want me to sign offensive lineman? You say we need an offensive line. Well, this is how I have to do it. So shut the fuck up because I'm in charge. And not for nothing, Robert Quinn did set the Bears franchise record in sacks last year. Well, Khalil Mack missed 10 games. From the Chargers' perspective, this is insane. This is awesome.
It's a home run.
This is as close to a perfect move as you can get. Makes them so much better in the short term, and they still have the 5th most cap space in the NFL. Herbert's still on his rookie contract. There's still names out there. J.C. Jackson would be a really, really good addition to this team on the corner. Re-signing Mike Williams, to me, signals they're probably going to go defense in the first round there. The Chargers said that they're, again, like we talked about with the Broncos, the Chargers, same way, said we're not going to sit around here and just let the Chiefs bully us for another decade. And they're trying to be the bully on the block is what they're trying to build right here. And for the first time in a long time, if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm probably not even able to go to sleep tonight. I'm so excited. Just the move, the signal, okay, here's all of our chips. So early in the offseason, just these two teams, I love this shit. They're like, this is what we're doing. Oh, look, man, we'll see you. If it doesn't work, we'll retool in a year. But we're planning on seeing you guys in January, February. And that's just how we're coming all year long. Because I hate this. We're going to be 9-8, but we've got a shot at getting them in the back end. That's one thing if you're a young team. When you're an average age, middle of the road kind of team, one way or the other, guys. And these guys are both like, all right, here we go.
Especially when the other thing I hate too is well, you just got to let the Chiefs dynasty just just run its course. It's but that could be 15 years. I mean, Mahomes is just starting his career. This is football. You got to be aggressive. And to your point, both these teams said, we're tired of getting beaten by Patrick Mahomes. Okay, we got our quarterback, Chargers. We got our quarterback. We've been really close with competing with the Chiefs. Chips on the table. Boom. Time to go now. Bronco said, okay, well, clearly the Chargers have their quarterback. Shit. I mean, the Raiders were good last year. They're going to get another offensive mind. We got to do something aggressive. Boom. They go get aggressive. Sets up perfectly. I mean, this division is going to be intense. I think, and they already don't like each other. I mean, we always think AFC East or AFC North. Man, those guys don't like each other. Ravens and these guys don't like each other either. I mean, it's just a little quieter because it's on the West Coast, and the East Coast guys, they don't know what they're doing over there. This division does not like each other at all. I'll tell you that. It's always scrappy. It's always physical. This is going to be a absolute war. I'm so excited for this season. And like you said too, Tyson, I mean, when you're looking at the Chargers, this is an absolute bolster to win now. I think they're going to go defense with signing Mike Williams. I wouldn't be mad at them either if they decided to take one of these receivers coming out, because I love Keenan Allen. He's really good. He's awesome. A little injury prone. And when you go down the line between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who both have a little injury past, can get hurt and nicked up at times, I wouldn't mind getting an Olave, a Garrett Wilson, or somebody of these guys who are going to fall at his receiver class. Somebody with speed, someone who can break the top off the defense, and you let your big body Mike Williams go get one, and let Keenan Allen carve you up with his routes. I think that would help Justin Herbert out a lot.
I know that they really like Josh Palmer, the wideout they grabbed last year. I think second round in the draft. So hopefully, he showed some flashes there. But I think it would be very wise of the Chargers to invest young on that defensive side of the ball. Specifically, you got the edge set now. You have Derwin James, who just played a full year healthy, and then it was like your boy Derwin James, who you said he couldn't finish the whole year playing healthy. He comes out this year. He balled out.
I know.
When he's ready to roll, you got him back there. You got the edge set. If you can establish some corners, this defense can go from a bottom 5 unit in the NFL to all of a sudden you're competing with, the rest of your division on Herbert's off days. Because that's what it's going to come down to, because Denver's defense is better than yours, and they're going to be better than yours. And Russell's going to have his off days, but they're going to win games on Russell's off days. The Chiefs' defense was abysmal, but when they got better and Mahomes started playing worse, they just started scoring their own touchdowns. They were like, screw this, we'll do it ourselves. So the defense has to be there, and the Chargers fans know that better than anybody.
Tyson, let's run through these franchise tags, new contracts pretty quickly. I mean, big names getting franchise tagged. I mean, that you can like point to and be like, oh, this is very impactful. It's coming out to Utah, and if you want to look through all this, I mean, there's going to be more to come, but it's all on franchise tag tracker on NFL.com. Big ones that stand out to me, I mean, off the jump, Devontae Adams, we mentioned it before, by the Green Bay Packers. You know, I think that's a big franchise tag, obviously, for them and what they want to do going forward with Rodgers. One that I think may be under the radar, Tyson, Jacksonville Jaguars franchise tagging Cam Robinson. Second straight season normally suggests that he may be on his way out, but that's a big one for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe they still go O-tackle at number 1 overall. Maybe they trade down from that now. Maybe they go defense. Opens up a whole Pandora's box of possibilities. I think that one went under the radar, but that's a good franchise tag, and I think a smart one for the Jaguars as well.
To me, they could go out and they could get one of these, either one of the top tackles, and try to start them on the right side, because we've seen that happen. Penei Sewell just did it, right? This happens in the NFL, and then move them over to the left. It also signals to me that maybe it's time to go hold some Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau or somebody, whoever your favorite edge rush prospect is. Maybe you want to go hold a future right there, because that's about as telling as you're going to get on who the Jaguars are going to take number 1 until the day of the draft, probably. Running through the rest of these, a lot of tight ends, man. A lot of tight ends. I think that the next time the NFL, well, baseball just got theirs done, but the next time the NFL has their CBA deal, the tight ends are going to say, "Hey, we need more money," because if you're going to franchise tag Dalton Schultz and David Njoku and Mike Gesicki for top 5 money, all 3 of those guys are now making the average of top 5 money at the position. That means that the NFL knows that they're not paying their tight ends enough.
Right.
So I think look for that to get a little bit messy maybe here in a couple of years.
The re-signees, I mean, we mentioned Mike Evans, big one. Titans re-signed Harold Landry, who's had a fantastic year for him last year. Linebacker, really defensive leader. A kind of a really big contract, actually. What was it, Tyson? 60 million something, 48 guaranteed.
I think 70. Was it 5 years for 70?
Something like that. I mean, big deal. I always get a little wary of that. For one guy on the defense like that. I mean, I think he is a really, really good player. But when I saw that number amount, I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of money. What Titans wise, just real quick with that. I mean, you have Tannehill, you got Henry. Can they make that next leap? Because what we saw last year in the AFC, woo, man, you're going to have a quarterback like that to really compete. I'm shocked that they spent that much money while they have someone like Ryan Tannehill at the helm. That's my takeaway from it.
Yeah, I don't think that Ryan Tannehill is going to win this team a Super Bowl, but I will say that Khalil Mack missed 10 games last year and just went for a second-round pick. So although this is a lot of money right now, the price that teams will pay for premium edge rushers, that market is always going to be there. So if Landry keeps playing the way he did last year, if they lose and they decide, okay, we don't need this guy anymore, there will be somebody in three years or whatever that goes, okay, we'll take our chances with this guy. We don't like the prospects, whatever. So I understand the value.
That's it for now, basically, I think, in the NFL, Tyson. I mean, we always say NFL never sleeps, man. I mean, it just storyline after storyline always comes out. I'm sure there'll be other stuff leaking out. I mean, these new franchise tags will be coming down. New contracts that are signed, drafts coming up, which we're going to be all over, by the way, for the listeners out there. We're going to be all over the draft. We are every year. I think this draft is very interesting. The quarterback class sucks. The skill position's awesome, and the linemen are awesome. So the big uglies are going to get some love this year. I'm excited for the draft. Other than that, I mean, what's been your early thought on the early start of the NFL year?
I mean, just this is what it is. It's chaos and it's fun, and this is what you do. You sit at your work, you're on your computer, you're on your phone, you're refreshing, because you never know when the NFL is going to strike. And just because I'm going to forget by the time we talk about the draft next, went from a really weak skill position player class from everybody that was listening to other people talk about the skill position, and then it was the fastest in the history of the NFL when they got to the combine. And oh no, now they have new turf. No, you guys just the COVID year fucked everything up as far as scouting these kids go. There's some players in this draft. We were led to believe that it's bad. The quarterbacks.
No, we were saying this last year that this is gonna be a
Yep.
good draft. We knew the quarterback class was gonna suck and everybody else was gonna be good. We've been saying that for like a year now, and what do you know? Now everybody's coming to our side.
Yeah, it is funny, and it's funny Brees Hall is that good of an athlete, or Kenny Walker is
Right.
that good of an yeah, it has been 3 years. We've been watching this. It's just stuff like that. So, yeah, I think this is going to be one of the more fun off seasons just because of how wide open the NFC feels for the first time, and the AFC. It's not exactly a close and shut race with like Buffalo or whoever. The team that was predicted to win the Super Bowl, the number one team, is the team that hasn't won shit in the
Right.
AFC. So it's going to get wild.
It is. Tyson, before we get out of here, though, man, you brought it up, so I guess we'll have to talk about it. But Nets and Sixers faced
game
off
one.
for the first time since the big trade. Obviously, you guys know the trade details. If you don't, I'll give you a
Danny
little Cliff Notes
Green.
version. Harden gets shipped from Brooklyn to the Sixers. Sixers finally offload Ben Simmons, and they get back, or they in addition, they get Seth Curry, who's been really good for the Nets. But that's the main thing, kind of a Simmons for Harden trade between the two. And this was the first time that Ben Simmons has shown his face in Philly in a long time. And he sat on the bench. He didn't play. He wasn't mentally ready enough for that. But hey, I give him credit. He sat on the bench. He took his wounds, licked his wounds on the bench, and hey, the Nets kicked the shit out of the Sixers tonight. I mean, what do you want me to say? It was an ass whooping. But I'm going to say this, Tyson, because I know what's going to happen. It's going to be all this hot take crap that you're going to see in the media. Oh, Nets won this trade by a mile. Oh, the Nets and this and that. But I'm going to pose the listener this question, Tyson, and then obviously going to pose this to you as well. What did we learn from this game tonight? Because for me, I didn't learn a damn thing because we knew Kevin Durant is awesome. Well, he was awesome in this game. We knew Kyrie Irving is electric. Man, he's always electric every time he's on the floor. We know Joel Embiid is dominant, getting points, getting rebounds. We know that. And when Harden's engaged, like we've seen throughout before this game when he's on the floor, we know what type of player he is. I didn't learn anything from this game besides the fact that when the Nets are going to be full strength, they're going to be really good. But that's what we thought. So I think it's going to be a lot of hot takes tomorrow. Whereas this is one game in the regular season that the Nets really wanted to play and win because they're fighting for their playoff life. When the Sixers, it would have been great to get this victory, but they didn't really need it. And so I look at it as just one regular season game that they got their ass kicked because Tyrese Maxey didn't play well, James Harden didn't play well, and the supporting cast around Joel Embiid didn't do enough tonight.
Yeah, I didn't learn shit. I learned Ben's just as big of a bitch as I thought he was. I can't believe, this dude, man.
He's got his Louis Vuitton jersey on.
I know. And this, you think you're the first athlete in history to be heckled? And then you're in Philadelphia and you're like, oh, they're accosting me outside my hotel. You're goddamn right they are. This is the first time they've seen you since you disappeared on them. So to me, I didn't learn anything. The Nets are really good. James Harden will always be, to me, the most hot and cold NBA. When he's bad, man, he's so bad. But when he's
such
good,
an enigma.
He's the greatest offensive player of all time, and also a guy that can just lose you games in the same body. And he does the same shit. He's getting the same looks. It's insane. But I knew that already. I just want to see Ben play, but just to time it up, man, it makes me mad the fact he's not back yet because this wasn't a physical injury. This was, he says it was mental health stuff, and so I hope for his sake that he gets that stuff straightened out. But just You're paid to do a job. Do the damn job, man. You're a mascot at this point. Play a fucking basketball game.
He is a mascot at this point. Well, I think he'll be back after this game.
I know, that's why it's so ridiculous. It's like you
Yeah.
couldn't. What are you gonna do if you guys play each other in the playoffs? You
Well,
can't go. You can't come.
I don't know. You may be getting the Kyrie Irving treatment. You know, you play everywhere except for Philly.
Ben's
Seems
just
like
gonna
they do that
start
a lot
getting
in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god. No, I didn't
Well,
learn shit. I learned that makes you mad when the Sixers play bad.
that's a fact. It seems to be happening a lot in the playoffs, unfortunately, when it matters. NFL, man, it just dominates everything. But as always, we appreciate you guys listening. I know it seems like football invaded our little basketball bubble that we had set up here. We had plans, we had everything getting rolling, getting ready to March Madness. I'm going to say this, and I promised the guest. Unfortunately, the schedule didn't work out, actually because of basketball. Next week, I can't promise it like I thought it was going to happen this week. It's literally like a last second thing that just couldn't quite happen. We're going to try to get on a special guest for you guys to get you ready for March Madness. So we're going to try to land that and get that going. If not, or even if we do, it's going to be all basketball next week. We're going to have the bracket. Tyson and I are going to break this thing down. We're going to tell you mid-majors who you should keep an eye on. We're going to tell you who's good. Is this team good? Is this team bad? We got you covered. I'm telling you. So
what are you doing?
I can't wait, man. Well, you're an NFL guy. I'm a basketball guy.
No,
I'm excited for March Madness.
You just guaranteed that Deshaun Watson gets traded on Monday or something, and because you said it's only a basketball deal, you just cursed us. No, of course there's. Oh man!
Even if he gets traded, we got to talk March Madness.
Yes, sir.
That's the thing.
Yes,
we got to talk ball. You know how we do it here. We're basketball guys too.
Oh yeah, and I mean this is the best, and we'll do a pick 'em too in the ESPN.
Oh yes,
app pool. So be on the lookout for what is that tournament?
Tournament
What's the
challenge,
app called?
I believe. The ESPN Tournament Challenge. Yeah. Same thing we did last year. So if you're interested, let me know. Last year, I believe it was a winner take all, free entry. I want to say it was $50. May do something similar this year, no entry fee. We might do something different. I mean, we're figuring this out here as we go, but that's something. So if you're interested, contact Tyson, contact me. As always, hit us up on our socials if you have questions. Maybe you think Russell Wilson stinks. Maybe you think they paid way too much for this old bum.
Maybe you like Drew Lock.
Maybe you like Drew Lock. He's a big Jeezy fan. Maybe you're a Jeezy fan. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, is this Packers? Are they a big favorite? Do you like him? I mean, share your opinions. Bears, did they get fleeced? Follow the Roundtable Instagram @_the Roundtable Pod _ me on Twitter @BWakai. Tyson on Instagram @Tyson Gentry. Contact us, ask us questions. We'll answer them on the podcast. Get involved with the tournament challenge. We got you covered next week. So if you feel left out, I haven't watched a lot of college ball, make sure to listen. You got time until opening rounds happens. So we'll put one out early in the week. So make sure to subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends so we can continue to spread the word and get out some real sports opinions.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that does it for the intrusion of the NFL. The NFL never sleeps. By next time we'll be talking basketball. But until then, guys, peace.